Hold up. Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing the secret number that you thought that you needed to retire early was never actually carved in stone at all. Yeah, that's the kind of plot twist that is exactly where our story starts today. What if the magic 50,000 XRP ticket to Easy Street is actually just a mirage? Okay, so quick disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of your money that you invest. Always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. Your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses. This video should be treated for, or at least as, educational and entertainment purposes only. Okay, confession time. I used to kind of scribble big, round numbers on sticky notes and slap them on my monitor, like motivational wallpaper. Now, you know the kind, right? 50k XRP equals freedom, right next to the coffee-stained ring. Now, it kind of felt exciting, almost kind of rebellious, right? Like I was in a secret club plotting an early escape from the 9-to-5 hamster wheel. But this week, scrolling through X on my phone while waiting for my pour-overs to finish, I crashed straight into a debate that kind of flipped that sticky note logic on its head. So picture this. Crypto commentator King Vail fires off a tweet that basically shouts, if you don't own 50,000 XRP, you're missing the rocket. 20 minutes later, my feed was a war zone, right? Screenshots of whale wallets, laser-eyed, popcorn emoji, and Vail's point was quite simple. 50,000 tokens is the minimum threshold for serious wealth. And his proof? On-chain data shows 50,835 XRP bags land you in the top 1% of holders worldwide. Elite, right? Velvet rope, bottle service. Sounds glamorous, right? Except at today's price, around $2.17 a coin, that magic stack costs roughly 108 grand. That's a fully loaded Tesla Model 3, or if you live where I do, a studio apartment with a view of exactly half a palm tree. And here is the kind of crazy part. Back in November of 2024, that very same pile would have actually set you back around 25k. So yeah, Vail's early bird kind of disciples are clinking champagne glasses right now, but for anyone discovering XRP this morning, that price tag feels like trying to kind of bench press a refrigerator. Enter Xena, community watchdog and professional mythbuster. Now, she wrote kind of quote tweets, and Vail with the kind of energy that you usually kind of reserve for slapping a flyaway from your sandwich. This is ego, not strategy. Now, according to her, obsessing over some kind of arbitrage token milestone is about as productive as measuring your self-worth by Instagram likes. And her thesis here, you could actually be holding 50,000 XRP and still fumble the bag if you lack basic financial literacy, right? Budgeting, risk management, exit strategy, the kind of unsexy stuff that nobody flexes about on social media. And so that's the brawl that I walked into, or maybe kind of jogged into, because at this point I'm pacing my apartment like a coach preparing a halftime speech. One camp yells, accumulate, accumulate, and as if kind of the apocalypse clock sits at 5 minutes to midnight. The other camp argues, manage, plan, diversify. And I'm stuck in the middle, coffee kind of getting cold, wondering if my sticky note has been kind of secretly gaslighting me. So let's kind of rewind just a little bit and zoom out. Why 50,000 tokens? Well, that number isn't totally random, right? If XRP hits $10, a price target that feels, ambitious, not cosmic, but it's there, those tokens become $500,000, right? That's kind of life-changing corner, sure, right? But Xena kind of points out the flip side, right? At the same kind of $10, 1,000 tokens only kind of nets you 10 grand. It's nice vacation money, but not going to be your kind of buy your mum a house kind of money, right? Now, her argument here is that if you're dreaming big anyway, why not dream galaxy brain big, right? 500, dollars per coin, right? At that kind of absurd level, a single digit kind of, 1,000 bag catapults you into a millionaire status without raiding your kind of kids' college fund. Now, before anyone kind of starts shopping for yachts, let's throw some kind of realism on the grill, right? Reaching $500 would catapult XRP's market cap well into the trillions. So roughly the kind of GDP of a small continent. It's not impossible, of course, but let's just say that the champagne would be kind of back ordered worldwide. Still, the exercise highlights something deeper. Price sometimes, at least price times quantity, is only half of the kind of wealth equation then. The other half is timing, conviction, and what you kind of actually do when those green candles finally light up the sky. So it's story time. 2 years ago, I met an XRP OG at a blockchain meetup. Let's call him Marco, right? The minimalist. Now, the dude, of course, had held a kind of modest 3,000 tokens bought during the kind of grimy bear market of 2020, around 25 cents a piece. But Marco wasn't content to sit and pray. He spent evenings devouring white papers, learning macroeconomics, and, get this, practicing fake exit strategies on a spreadsheet like a gamer speedruns a dungeon. Now, when XRP surged to $2 earlier this cycle, he cashed out a third, paid off his student loans, and shifted the rest into a diversified basket. Today, he sleeps like a baby during market dips because his life actually improved. No sticky note stress required. So let's contrast that with another friend, and I'll spare you the blushes and we'll call her Luna, right? She YOLO'd her entire savings into XRP after a TikToker told her banks flip the switch tomorrow. Now, she, of course, now holds nearly 60,000 tokens. Sounds like a baller until you learn that she's on her third credit card balance transfer, praying that the next pump outruns the interest rates. Now, the same coin, polar opposite outcomes. The difference here is literacy, planning, and emotional control. And that's what Xena is kind of screaming into the timeline here. It's not how large your bag is, it's how well you guard it, grow it, and crucially, how gracefully you exit without turning a life-changing gain into a round trip ticket back to square one. Basically, let's be honest, crypto history is littered with Cinderella stories that turned into pumpkin crashes by midnight. Vail's supporters, they fire back with the kind of inflation argument, right? Fiat currency is melting. You need as much crypto as humanly possible. And look, they're not wrong about purchasing power erosion, right? My grandma's grocery stories make 1970s prices sound like dollar store fantasy, but translation does indeed matter, right? Protecting against inflation doesn't automatically mean maxing out leverage to reach 50,000 XRP trophy. Sometimes it simply means dollar cost averaging within your comfort zone, diversifying, and brace for the buzzkill, thinking longer than the next full moon tweet. So let's go ahead and sprinkle in some data on this debate then. So according to on-chain stats, only about 1% of all XRP addresses hold 50 grand or more in tokens. That's roughly 37,000 wallets in a sea of millions. But here's a twist. The drop from needing 56,304 tokens in January to 50,835 tokens in June means the bar for the elite's status actually lowered by about 10%, while the price more than quadrupled. The translation? Supply concentration is shifting, but so is affordability. So the glass is either half full or half stacked, depending on your meme of vocabulary. And now, if you're new to crypto, first, welcome to the roller coaster. Keep your arms inside the ride, and this debate might actually feel like two wealthy uncles arguing, whether you should actually buy a Porsche or a Bentley when you actually, just about trying to afford a maybe used Honda. And that's kind of why I think Xena's voice actually resonates, right? She's basically saying, drive what you can maintain, right? Learn the rules of the road and don't feel lesser because someone else has, let's say a Ferrari or has a car that maybe just revs louder. Now, the other night I hosted a voice chat in our free educational Discord. There's a link in the description down below, by the way. Now, it's kind of where we kind of tackled everything exactly this kind of quandary, right? People kind of shared stories of starting with $50, topping up with every paycheck and celebrating the milestones of a single full XRP stack. Now, that's 1,000 tokens for anyone new, 5,000, whatever it may be for people. Now, the key was community, the accountability, and resisting comparison traps. Now, one listener said, comparison is the theft of joy and of sound portfolio decisions. And we can probably preach that. We also talked about practical tactics, setting tiered sell targets, right? Using stop limit orders and, journaling emotions. Yeah, journaling, right? If pro athletes study game tapes, why can't investors review panic tweets? When red candles hit, flipping through past overreactions can be the ice bath that cools impulsive moves. And speaking of cool moves, if you're looking to actually act on any of this, well, you should be checking out the Bluefin crypto exchange. Their link is down below. There is an affiliate link that supports the channel and keeps my caffeine budget alive. Now, Bluefin's interface, it makes laddered limit orders, ridiculously simple. Perfect for folks who, want to lock in profits without babysitting charts at 3 a.m. And yes, affiliate means that we get a small kickback if you sign up, but it costs you absolutely nothing. And it helps keep cranking out these kind of deep dives instead of filling the channel with mid-roll ads for random phone games. Anyway, back to the brawl then, right? Vail kind of doubles down, tweeting that the future hyperinflation will make today's $108,000 look like pocket lint. Now, he cites historical episodes, the kind of, 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 kind of republic, the Zimbabwe, and even that time in the 1970s when a New York pizza slice was just a quarter. Now, he argues that denominating goals into fiat, is kind of like plotting a cross-country trip with a map that's actively shrinking. Now, his remedy is that you want to be aiming higher, stack harder, and, well, sleep better. Xena, she counters with a thread about opportunity cost, right? Every extra dollar chasing an oversized XRP bag is a dollar not compounding somewhere else. Maybe a diversified index, maybe a side hustle, maybe investing in yourself through a coding bootcamp that could increase your earning power. Now, she posts a spreadsheet showing how a balanced portfolio over 10 years often outruns a single asset moonbet, even when that single asset booms, because drawdowns hurt more than rallies help in the long run. And the community reaction? It split like a wishbone at Thanksgiving. Half applaud Vail for the visionary courage, half salute Xena for the pragmatic sanity. And me? Well, I turned to my sticky note into a kind of makeshift paper airplane and let it crash land in the recycling bin. Because here's the aha moment. Numbers are tools, they're not shackles. 50,000 can inspire or intimidate. The same number, different psychology. So what matters is aligning your targets with your personal reality. Income, expenses, risk tolerance, and yes, your sleep quality. If a goal keeps you up at night, it's no longer purely financial, it's taxing your mental health, and that bill never discounts. Okay, so let's test this with a quick thought experiment. So let's imagine two hypothetical futures then. Future A, XRP grinds its way to $10 over the next 5 years, mirroring historical adoption curves of disruptive tech. Now, you hold 3,000 tokens because that's what your budget allowed for. The result? 30 grand. It's not yacht money, but maybe enough to clear a nagging debt or fund a passion project. And because you never overextended yourself, you're not losing sleep over market swings. Future B, You remortgaged your house to chase the 50,000 token dream. XRP does explode to $10, but not before a gut-wrenching crash to 50 cents that forces you to sell half your bag just to cover the loan repayments. Now, when it finally moons, your stash is down to 10,000 tokens. The same price target, vastly different net results. Stress tax is real, folks. Now, let's stretch those price targets and those prices and the pie in the sky $500 predictions then. Will it happen? Nobody knows. But ask yourself, could you stomach a 5-year winter to maybe, possibly, hit that jackpot? And would the journey wreck your mental health, your relationships, your credit score? And if yes, then even a winning bet could end up a losing life. Now, one of my favorite analogies is the gym, right? Some people kind of chase the mythical six-pack abs, but quit after a month because, well, the goal feels like Everest level. Others, they aim simply to show up 3 times a week and, end up healthier, happier, and surprise, sometimes they get that six-pack anyway. Consistency and sustainability trump intensity and ego. So whether you kind of bench pressing or, bag stacking, it kind of works. And during last night's read through of Marco Mike's latest newsletter, I noticed a gem. Wealth is the byproduct of a repeatable process, not a once in a lifetime lotto ticket. So I scribbled that on a fresh sticky note, not a number this time, but a mantra. And guess what? It already feels lighter on the monitor. So where does that leave us? Well, if you're staring at your portfolio, wondering whether to chase 50K XRP, here is the kind of distilled playbook that I am adopting. First, we want to audit your finances like a CFO. You need to know your monthly cash flow, your emergency fund, and the real risk tolerance, not the bravado that you tweet about. Second, you got to set tiered goals, not binary moon or bust ultimatums. Maybe it's 5K tokens this year, 10K tokens next, or maybe it's diversifying into other assets while maintaining a core XRP position. The journey can be gradual and still glorious. Third, education, and it is immensely important, right? So educate relentlessly, right? And that is where our Discord really shines, right? We dissect white papers, we have macro trends, and yes, we meme for mental health. It's free. The link is down below, and no one will shame you for holding 0.5 XRP or 5,000 XRP. Knowledge, it compounds faster than coins, and the ROI is immune to market crashes. Fourth, automate good behavior. Use features like reoccurring buys, stop loss orders, or Blowfin's laddered sales so that your emotions don't hijack the rational plans at 2 a.m. candle closes. Fifth, right? Detach yourself from your kind of portfolio screenshots, right? You're a full human being and not a fluctuating number on CoinMarketCap. Celebrate learning milestones as much as market milestones. And then lastly, savor the ride, right? Because in crypto, the journey is only half the meme, right? There will be days when XRP trends worldwide, days when glitchy APIs shows it at 0, and days when your Uncle Bob asks if you're still doing the internet money thing, right? You laugh, you breathe, you keep perspective, and remember, nobody drifts into financial independence by accident, right? They pilot towards it with intention and flexibility. Which brings me back to our kind of dueling pundits. Vail isn't wrong for encouraging aggressive stacking, and Xena isn't wrong for preaching strategic modesty. They're speaking, to different life circumstances, right? Different psychologies, right? Your job is to filter advice through the lens of your own reality, right? The magic number, it isn't 50,000. It's whether, it's whatever lets you kind of sleep well, whatever lets you act rationally and stay in the game long enough for compounding to do its thing. And so here is my new sticky note. Literally wrote it just now. Enough is personal, right? But put that where you'll see it every single morning, maybe next to your coffee maker. Let it remind you that the point isn't to chase something or someone else's kind of finish line. It's to actually design a finish line that actually fits your race.